And welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen. Guys, this is your daily Rangers news channel, the channel that brings you news about the most successful team in football every single day. Guys, it is your team every day. And the only way you can make sure that you get your team every day is by hitting that sub, ringing that notification bell, and setting the notifications to all so it springs up with a reminder on your mobile device or computer. And obviously give this video a like, guys. It does help out. Apologies if you can hear snoring in the background. I have a Labrador on the floor here who decided to go to sleep. Anyway, so guys, welcome on board. Thank you for choosing to watch another episode. Thank you for all your phenomenal support over the last few weeks and months. It has been amazing. Victoria and I really appreciate it. But let's talk all things Rangers. Let's talk a few things, obviously, about the legal battle that Rangers are currently facing that could result in them paying £9.5 million in fines or in a court settlement. I'll also have a look at some summer of decisions as regards players who are coming towards the end of their current deals with Rangers. Let's start off, though, by talking about Hummel. Obviously, Rangers kits used to be made by Hummel until we obviously swapped over to have the kit made by Castore. Now, the administrators for Elite Sportswear, who are the company that owned Hummel, said they are going to continue with the legal battle to get money back from Rangers, stating that Rangers are, in their words, in breach of contract. The administrators have decided to take this to a civil court battle, seeking to gain some £9.5 million from Rangers. Apparently, they allege that this is for the fact that Rangers broke off their deal early and breached their contract with Hummel by going to Castore. This is a court case that started before Hummel went bankrupt, but the administrators have decided to take the case on. Rangers, in their latest set of accounts, did not set any money aside for this legal battle, stating that as far as they were concerned, the claim would not succeed. But this is obviously an intention for the administrators of the company to try and regain some of the lost cash. Obviously, it was lost when the company went bankrupt, obviously targeting Rangers for that. Something obviously that Rangers could do without at this time, with obviously money obviously being tight at this moment. Obviously, money needed to be invested in the squad this summer, money to be invested obviously in Edmiston House continually, money that is needed to obviously run the club. So this is obviously an expense that Rangers could certainly do without. So it'd be interesting to see over the next weeks and months how this legal dispute, if it does go ahead, how it goes ahead, and what the outcome of it is. I'm not going to comment any further on that, obviously for legal reasons. I'm just going to bring you the news of this legal dispute. Now, three players who Rangers have, I think, really do need to make a decision on this summer are three players who are, although not out of contract, have only 1 year left on their present deals. Now, we cannot, under any circumstances, be sat here in a year's time having the same discussion about these three that we're having about the 8 players, or 9 if you include Malik Tillman, as to whether or not they stay. Quite frankly, it is bad management and bad technique by Ross Wilson and a number of others to allow players to run down their contracts to such an extent that you then cannot regain any of the money for those players that you spent. You know, certainly if you look at the likes of, for example, Alfredo Morelos, who was once the subject of I think it was £16 million bid from Lille. You look at Ryan Kent, who was once subject of a £7 million bid. You've got a situation where we are obviously losing money on those guys. Those guys will walk for nothing this summer, and Rangers will not recoup a single penny that they paid for them. Obviously, you know, people say that obviously Alfie has repaid that £1 million that he cost us from HJK. You know, given the fact that he's done so well in Europe for us, he's obviously helped us to title 55. And so on. So, that argument certainly. But, when you invest in players and you invest in assets, you want to get money back in. And obviously, that's the trading model that Rangers have now installed, isn't it? That in this modern day where we have not got the funds that we used to have in the past to go out and splurge the cash, we need a way of generating income and bringing income into the club. And the trading model is seen as being the best one to do that, to bring in players, develop them, and then sell them on. And there's a number of English clubs that use that same model to ensure they stay financially viable. And obviously, the situation is that these 8 players that will walk for absolutely nothing. Now, obviously, some of them may well retire, the likes of Stephen Davis, whose career has been plagued by injuries just recently, Alan McGregor, who's 41 years old. Scott Arfield, people that may decide to call it a career, but certainly others, you could recoup some money for if they were still under contract. Now, the three players that I am talking about are, which I showed you on the initial slide, are Borna Barisic, Kamar Roof, and John Lundstrom. Let's start with Mr. Sick Note himself, Mr. Glass, Kamar Roof. Now, I don't think anyone disputes that on his day, Kamar Roof is probably the best finisher at the club. He's the best striker at the club. But the unfortunate thing is that Kamar is injured all the time. I mean, literally, the guy puts on his shorts and gets an injury, or he gets a grass stain and has to have a month in a hospital bed. His return is pretty decent: 48 appearances, 25 goals in his time for Rangers. But obviously, that is a limited number of appearances given how long he's actually been at the club. The obvious issue is here, the fact we have 1 year left on his deal, is that who would want to take a punt on Roof? That's the situation. The fact that he has been out so much, the fact that he's been injured so much, which club are going to want to take a risk on him? I think it's highly doubtful that Rangers will be able to move him on just for that reason. The fact that, that he is constantly injured and no club is going to want to risk any amount of money on that. Obviously, you could release him early from his contract. You'd have to pay up his contract, obviously. But at the end of the day, I don't think Kamar Roof is someone we're going to get any money in for. The other player, is John Lundstrom. Now, John Lundstrom is someone who was coming for an awful lot of criticism this year. Obviously, John Lundstrom had that outstanding Europa League run, which obviously finished with that winning goal against Leipzig in the semi-finals, and who can forget that? And we thank him for that, of course we do. But John Lundstrom has certainly not been the same effective player this season. Many people have said that he doesn't look fit. Many people say that is he playing with a knock? People say that it looks like he's towing a trailer when he's running around the pitch, that he slows the game down, that he puts a handbrake on Rangers attacks, that he only passes it sideways, backwards. He isn't a very forward-thinking player. Like I said, he is someone who's coming from an awful lot of criticism from Rangers fans this year. Now, he is in turn out of contract in the summer next year. Obviously, Rangers have a decision to make. Is Lundstrom someone they want to keep hold of? Do they see a future for him at the club? Now, Michael Beales does seem to like John Lundstrom. He uses him a lot. He brings him on. He gave him the captain's armband when Tav went off against St Mirren. He's certainly a player that Michael Beale likes. Now, when he was questioned at the press conference after the St Mirren game about his future and about a contract, obviously he stated that there'd been no contract talks so far. That is obviously something Rangers will need to put right. They do need to obviously take action, and I think certainly do something with this and make a decision. Are they going to keep him, or are they going to sell him? I think if they are going to sell him, this transfer window needs to be the one they sell him in, because like I said, you wait till January, his value is going to be much decreased because no one's going to want to pay for him at that point, because they know they'll get him for free in the summer, and obviously in the summer then he walks for nothing. So the fact is, I think that if it is that they're not going to keep Lundstrom, they do need to, I think, make that decision to sell him this summer. A lot of arguments state that would be the best policy, generate some more money, get some more money into the club. Other arguments state that, that Rangers can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and they can't just get rid of 11, 12 players and then try and replace those 11, 12 players. It's too big a squad changeover at this point. And, that obviously is a dilemma for whoever the new sporting director is, and obviously for Michael Beale and John Bennett, obviously the chairman of Rangers. The third figure, obviously, is Borna Barisic. Borna Barisic, who has been a particularly, especially during the 55 title season, was an outstanding performer for Rangers. Barisic is a good left back, an international left back for Croatia. Now, last summer, Rangers acquired for over 5 million. About 5 million, I think it was in the end, 5.2, I think it was, Ridvan Yilmaz. Now, Ridvan Yilmaz has missed an awful lot of this season with injury. Obviously was out of the St Mirren game due to injury, and obviously the jury is still out on Yilmaz. So people talk about the fact that, it may be worth giving Borna an 18 months to 2-year contract, given the uncertainty surrounding Ridvan. But again, that is a decision that needs to be made this summer. You certainly need 2 quality players in every position. So is there an argument for keeping Borna around as that second left back, even if Ridvan becomes the starter? But whether Borna would settle for that, who knows? Borna has spoken about the fact that he loves being at Rangers, that he loves Rangers, and that if he does leave, he wants to leave for a club that are like Rangers, in his words. So again, Borna Barisic, what do they do with him? Again, a summer decision for Michael Beale, for a new sporting director, and for John Bennett. Three contracts that really do need to. Decisions need to be taken over those contracts. Obviously, there are other players who are in contract, the contracts are not up, like Glenn Kamara. Many people feel that it's time to move on Glenn Kamara due to the fact that he has been very ineffective this season. He started in the Viaplay League Cup final. After that day, we've hardly seen him. So, is that a case of it's time to move him on? And what can we get for him? Certainly I don't think we'll get anywhere near what Nice were offering for him last summer, which again is a disappointment. Again, a bit of bad management by Ross Wilson on that aspect. But certainly decisions are there to be made, and Rangers do need to make some really big decisions over this off-season. About obviously those 8 players, 9 players if you include Tillman. Obviously there's the whole Tillman situation as well. Do we pay the 5 million if that's what it is they want for him, or do we let him go back to Bayern? That's the question. But obviously as well, over Borna, over Kamar, and over John Lundstrom, and there is a decision to be made. Do we extend their contracts? And it's got to be made this summer for me, because if it isn't, we're going to be sat here in 12 months' time facing the exact same problem, which is not what we need as a club. Obviously, the game now, so we build up towards the game on Sunday against Aberdeen at Pittodrie, as Rangers visit Pittodrie to take on one of our rivals. I mean, okay, not rivals in terms of league position, but certainly a team that do not like Rangers, that certainly seem to raise their game when they come to play Rangers. And it was quite interesting to listen to Graham Roberts been interviewed on the Gallant Few. That was a great podcast. Just go and check it out. 10 questions with Graham Roberts. Brilliant podcast. He was asked, about the situation and obviously the Aberdeen game. He was asked about things like that. And he said, as far as he's concerned, it's embarrassing. You see Aberdeen play against Rangers. They're throwing themselves in the way of the ball. They're in for every challenge. They're up for every challenge. And then they come to play that team from across the city later on, and there's not the same commitment and there's not the same die-hard attitude, is there? And he says it's just embarrassing. And as a player, he would be embarrassed by that. So, that's certainly an interesting one that Roberts came out with. But obviously we build up towards that game. It's not going to be an easy game, I don't think. Aberdeen will seek to make it as difficult as possible for Rangers. But obviously here on Glasgow Rangers Nation, we will be covering that. We'll cover the build up to it. We'll cover the preview to that. And we will be running a live stream on Sunday. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. This has been your news update. From the club, we like to talk obviously about all the latest news, bring you your team every single day. Guys, please hit that sub, ring that notification bell, and please give this video a like. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'll be back to speak to you again very soon here on the channel.